Hey everyone, welcome back. This is episode 2 of Indie Creators.
We're going to keep them coming.
John and I, this week in the bar, we interviewed Brooklyn rapper Soulcon. We talked about a lot of stuff, his start in rap, growing up in Los Angeles, and then coming out to Brooklyn. We talked a little bit about the rap battles and a lot more stuff.
Listen for all of that, and before we get to our interview, I don't like interview.
Our chat,
our conversation. Yeah. Today's podcast is brought to you, as always, by INDMUSIC. INDMUSIC is the global rights administration network for independent artists, helping you make money and control your rights on YouTube, SoundCloud, and beyond. That's not part of the copy. I should have just read the copy.
I like the way you did it. That was good.
Thanks, man. Here's Soulcon.
Yo, come on and kick it on the porch with me. Take the scene from your seat, neighbor, get your balls filthy. I know this town like the black of my hand. It got more tails than...
That's what made me nervous. Cause
Yeah.
I was like, we gotta experience the festival. It's like the crushing humiliation of not being good enough will outweigh your feelings of missing out. I promise.
It's like, hey, do you want to play at this huge festival? And you have 3 days to plan it. We're here with Soulcon in the bar, ladies and gentlemen. We were just talking a little bit about the super group we did with him and a few other artists in the INDMUSIC network at Bonaroo in 2013, right? Yeah, it was 2013.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, taking a trip down memory road.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was sort of like we're gonna get 4 artists together, and then as soon as we got on site, it was hey Soulcon, do you want to be the band leader?
Yeah, that was terrifying. I think I took to it well enough. I just am not a formally trained musician, and everybody else was. So that was a little difficult, just trying to navigate past my own insecurities or ignorance about that, while being very frank about them.
Right.
Sure. There are a lot of moments though where people said things like, "All right, so we're gonna step this up," I forgot. So they use some like tempo designation. I don't know tempos. That's actually not that hard. But just anytime you use like any sort of like musical structural term, I'd just be like, "Yeah, like that." Can you beatbox it for me? Like, could you just hum it for me? Because that's how I do everything that I do. Even when I write I write all my hooks and I come up with the melodies, but all I do is if someone else is singing them, I sing it to them and say, do it like that, but sound better than I do.
For sure. So I mean,
that was an experience that was kind of like trying to figure out how to bring how I do music in a very piecemeal, troll-like way to the much more refined sensibilities of well-trained musicians.
And then pulling that all together in 4 days. So 3 days, 4 days, what was it?
That was, I think it was, was it?
I think it was 3 days of rehearsal.
Yeah, 3 days of rehearsal, and we had then there was the there was go time.
Yeah, I think the third day was the performance. So it was like the night of, right?
And we had a little more time than that. I can't remember exactly because every day was just this very bizarre, fog that was like humid and full of painted faces,
right.
And people stumbling up to me and be like, "Hey man, you got pot?" And I'm like, "No, I don't. I won't you just check me off the list for the rest of the festival."
Yeah, I'm the only one that doesn't have pot.
Yeah, pretty much.
So move on.
Pretty much. I think of me as your dad while you're here.
I mean, that's Bonaroo. I mean, that whole series is up on our YouTube channel, so you guys can check it out.
Oh,
but let's back up a little bit and talk about your process. You mentioned that a lot of the ways you write songs, you mentioned troll-like as a... So does that just mean that, you come up with a lot of the structure of the songs on your own, and then you bring out like other producers, or how does that process normally work for you?
I'll get the beat from whoever produces the song. Mm-hmm. Right now, the album I'm working on is produced by J57 from Brown Bag All Stars, and I'll get a beat from him, and then I'll just play it over and over again and get really frustrated by not being able to come up with anything.
Fight it a little bit.
It's going to be there's a long period of frustration that accompanies making any song that I have to live with for a long time. So album stuff is excruciating. I'll just play the beat over and over again. If you go to my iTunes, you'll see like on the play count, all of my beats, they have all like the play count is in excess of like 300 for every single one that I've ever put out. So that's to give you a sense of how obsessive and how much of a perfectionist I am with that. And then when I finally have an idea of what I'm going to do, then comes the misery of writing the song. And I know it's supposed to be like this. I'm supposed to make music making out to sound like this liberating, beautiful process. Mm-hmm. I hate the process. I love the outcome.
Oh, of course.
And being able to share that. That's the great part. I know a lot of people love the process. Probably because I'm not an instrumental musician.
Right.
Sure.
That probably takes some of the wonderment out, because I'm just stumbling around and cobbling stuff together in my head. That makes it frustrating. But, you know, I get the song out, I get it done, I record it, again, 50 million times. And then when it's done, I'm ecstatic, and I, you know, share it with everybody I can.
For sure. So. And I feel like, you know, anyone that tries to make it sound like, you know, art, for lack of a better term, is easy to make. I mean, of course it's fun when you find a finished product, but most artists never are actually satisfied with their finished product, you know?
Yeah, and I think a lot of the folks who are able to say, oh man, art is so amazing and beautiful, and they just can like pontificate on how freeing it is for them, they don't have any adult obligations, right. Or they have neglected all those adult obligations. Or they're just lucky that all of them have been satisfied in an easy way. You know, I got a lot of friends that, you know, and acquaintances and people I hate, who I've experienced in life and met through my life, who like, yeah, and some of them, you know, some of whom who were artists and just, you know, would gush over how excited they were for this piece and that piece. And I'm like, you live at your parents' house and you're 27. Like, you know, are a Vanderbilt or something. Like, that's
yeah, right.
these like that and that's the thing. That's there's always been that. And, you know, if you go back obviously decades and decades ago, you know, we're not talking about something like where people would like squat in like studio apartments that were abandoned in New York in the 70s, like
the good old days.
80s.
That's what they call it.
It's not what it is. Yeah, it's not. That's not what we're talking about. Nor is it necessarily enviable. You know, creatively it might be, but
I think there's a romanticism to it.
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
a time when you could be an artist in the West Village and make a living, and you know.
And now they all hate New York and they want to live in like Hudson. You know, so it's and they get the hell out of here. You know, so it's and you know, I like Hudson, but so, it's one of those things where like I think real life is I don't try to soft sell. I don't try to paint a rosy picture of something that's not always rosy. Sometimes it's very difficult and frustrating. And when you make music about life, your life is going to inform it and how you talk about the art that you make.
Was there something about that time period in either music or New York City that made you want to make music?
I mean, when I was growing up, you know, from the San Fernando Valley, originally in Woodland Hills, and just sort of a kid adrift in you know, suburban Southern California. Yeah, that, you know, New York looked like this oasis of excitement and creativity from like when I was from when I was a little kid, and most of my family was still here. They were in New York. They were either in New York or Los Angeles. But all the old Jews were in New York, basically.
Are we talking the 90s, mid 90s, early 90s?
80s, 90s. And they were all up in, you know, they were all living in the Bronx in like, you know, their different labor union subsidized apartment buildings. And when I'd go visit New York, I was just awestruck. And you know, I go to like Fat Beats, and I was really excited to go there and not to say that, you know, Fat Beats LA is really great, and there's a record store called The Basement that I used to go to in the Valley. It was fantastic, but you know, New York had this special quality because it's everything. It's the intersection of everything from all over the world, and I came here and it was already, you know. After a great deal of change had happened, where cultural spaces were just being cannibalized, and I couldn't actually, you know, physically, you know, be part of my own musical culture. So there's nowhere to be part of it. You know, there was Fat Beats, the record store, and that's it. And there were a few hip hop saturated venues that just closed right down shortly after I got to New York. I hope the two aren't related at all, but I guess in some real indirect way it is, because I'm part of the millennial generation that really displaced a lot of the things about New York that drew that generation here in the first place.
Yeah.
So that's frustrating because I could do whatever I want to try to like not be a displacer or a gentrifier, but just by existing in a city, you have an effect on it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that goes back to what you were saying before about just sort of like owning the moment and not trying to like push it away or act like there's something else about it. And like one of the, the best phrases you just said was cultural cannibalization, which I think is probably a great way to define, almost like our current state in the music industry. And, we've all been talking like lately about the way music is in Brooklyn and the way it is like right now in this part of Brooklyn and Williamsburg, and how it's just sort of feeding this bigger machine. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of that sort of, happened like inorganically and organically to an extent, right?
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, you have, companies that, like a company like INDMUSIC that exists for music purposes that do try to put on events, provide spaces for artists. Mm-hmm. And you also have, in New York,
thanks for that plug, by the way.
No problem. No. So you got
on Twitter at INDMUSIC.
Yeah, and you guys played a vital role for a lot of musicians online and offline. And so, if you're an artist who's looking for a home and a partner, please, INDMUSIC. Awesome. So, I mean that genuinely. I don't plug things I don't actually believe in.
Thank you.
But they're also, because it's New York, you got a lot of like corporate sponsored events and spaces, and they can be really awesome. They can be fantastic. They can be amazing. But you never know how long they're going to exist. And they're going to be predicated on, sometimes, just definitely the music is a factor, but also sort of whether their brand can, be sold through that music.
Right.
And that's it's a valid exchange. It's completely valid. That makes sense. And heck, it's not new, I mean, company sponsored tours, and that's not a new thing. Company sponsor event spaces. That's how it was and how it is. But now it's like a very new thing, because in lieu of the massive label budgets and everything, you have these companies that, it doesn't matter how many CDs are sold, people are still going to drink Sprite.
Yeah.
And that's something that, that's a cash flow that, luckily their advertising budget could be so big. They're like, well, we could just take a few percentages off of that, and we could build a really cool DJ school or something like that. Yeah, you can do whatever. Yeah, you can do whatever, and that's cool. It just, you got to hope that there's a space for the uglies and the normals,
right.
Like myself. We can't, I can't, there are only so many things I could feasibly sell.
I think a lot of, especially in New York, a lot of the brands that are working with artists these days, they really understand that they need to stay as much out of the way as humanly possible, because they are a threat to the authenticity of the art. So, but you have companies like Red Bull that does Red Bull Academy. You've got Converse, Rubber Tracks, that it's giving studio time to artists in
shout out to Rubber Tracks.
Shout out to Rubber Tracks. Yes, indeed. I think it's one of those things where we're still finding that balance. In music, and I think it varies from artist to artist. It varies from brand to brand, because Sprite throwing you $50,000 to do a video series, doesn't mean much to them, but that would make your year a lot nicer. And
and I see the Sprite bottle every time on the BET cipher. I'm like, all right, cool. That's a cool plate. I know you keep talking about Sprite, but it's growing up, I always see the Sprite rap commercials, because they had the one that were like the Kung Fu ones that were really cool, and they had the Voltron ones, which were amazing. The Voltron ones are my favorite.
Voltron is the shit.
Yeah, and I think they had like Fat Joe in like a baby blue like Voltron pilot uniform or something like that. It was ludicrous. It was great.
I mean, you brought up ciphers, so let's talk a little bit about another partner of ours, Team Backpack. You just dropped an incredible cipher with two of your boys from Brown Bag All Stars.
Oh, just one. J57.
Rugs.
Rugs. That gentleman is another dope MC.
Yeah.
So
that was right here in New York.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was at YouTube.
In the CBGB space, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that was really cool. I like that YouTube.
Real quick, for people that don't know what's going on with that, YouTube has a recording studio in New York, in Chelsea, where they have taken a piece of CBGB's stage from CBGB's, RIP, and they have it set up for artists to come in and film whatever. So our partner Team Backpack went in there and brought in Soulcon, J57, a bunch of other MCs to do ciphers. All of that is on their YouTube channel. Check it out. And yeah, tell us a little bit about how you got involved with that and that experience.
So I was approached by, or did I approach them? I forgot. I can't remember. Oh golly, what was the? Because I don't want to miscast the chain of events.
I
not
know
that there's any ego between the two parties.
For sure.
You know,
I know they've been into your stuff for a while because we always talk about like rappers that we have in our network in Brooklyn, and they're like, oh, we want to get with Soulcon at some point.
And they're also they're because they're very Bay and California oriented. Sure. They've have a long history with some of my old colleagues from the battle rap world. The ones who are really good rappers, not battling. So if you ever want to see some of the best Team Backpack verses, you should look the ones up with Immaculate. They're actually incredible.
Awesome.
But yeah, so we talked online, and I believe Twitter was the medium, and then it shifted to email, and we were off, and we converged at YouTube Studios. The CBGB's studio, and it was pretty awesome. I was so nervous though because I just had no idea what it was gonna feel like to do like a one take recording of something like that long anymore. Because it's felt like the battle rap days, because that was a lot of memorization.
You did one take.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Because I was like, they said, oh, if it's really bad, we can redo. I was like, we're not redoing this. Like this is I'm not going to be the retake guy in front, even just in front of the people who were there, the rappers and their friends and their representation. Like I just didn't, and for them, even for the Team Backpack crew, like they went across the country to do this and spent time and energy, and you could tell it's they're not doing it for anything. The basis of it is just a love for hip hop. That's what and just wanting to have a great sort of an environment for artists, trying to just distinguish themselves. Yeah. Because that's hard to do. That's really hard, and I think that's taken for granted. And you can tell how hard it is to distinguish yourself as an artist if you spend like a minute on Twitter looking up the phrase "check out my mixtape." If you search,
I wouldn't
check
dare.
out my mixtape. Or something along those lines, like, "Hey man, check out this." If you try to look for those various phrases, you'll see a sea of like desperate promotion. People have no idea how to do it. It's that syndrome of the really desperate rapper responding to everybody you're talking to on Twitter with a mixtape link or a SoundCloud link. In one way, I think like, oh, don't you know, stupid, this is spam and no one likes it and it's annoying. Then I think, well, if you're not surrounded by people who are like very social media savvy, and if you live just in a place where you have no one to talk to counsel you, you have no clue. So I used to be very like, as of like a year ago, I was such a like vengeful anti-spam, crusader, and just like, I was like, this is the wrong way to do it. You're doing yourself a disservice, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? I say, hey, I can't listen. I just can't listen to your mixtape because it's a precedent that you can't set, because then you're sitting there listening to everyone's mixtape. Yeah. And that's also not an efficient way for anyone who's looking for good music to spend their time.
Right.
And it never has been and it never will be. Just because the internet's multiplied the field too widely, and you can't consume all that in a discerning way. But yeah, so like something like going back to the original, Team Backpack is one of those mediums where you can, just it's distilled down to how well you rap, and that's it.
For sure. And
people can see what you look like, how you sound, how you present yourself, and that's all you can really ask for. And it's fan oriented. That's something I really like. It's very listener oriented, and I'm sure there's some people, who are, among the, and I know there are like rappers who will watch it, just for entertainment. I know there are industry people who watch it, but it's very fan oriented, and it has a fan community that they engage a lot, and I like that too. The sort of the norms and mores of YouTube discourse are sometimes a little weird to me, and as I learn more about them,
I had no idea there was any kind of rules whatsoever. On YouTube.
Well, fewer
sarcasm,
fewer rules. Yeah. No rules, many conventions, and there are a lot of memes in YouTube discourse that just baffle me. Like, I appreciate it, and someone wrote, it was flattering. Someone wrote on the comments of the Team Backpack Cypher, only here for SoulCon, or only came here because it said SoulCon. It's like, I appreciate that sentiment. I promise you there are ways to show your appreciation that do not defecate on everybody else involved. It's okay to have like, it's not mutually exclusive to say I'm good and the other people who were there were good. Or even if you didn't like them, don't say it. Just say, man, I like SoulCon. Cool. There we go.
Sure. Well, I think maybe, I don't know. I'm going to leap to conclusions now because we're having a podcast. But you have a lot of your battle rap videos have millions of views on them. Like, there's fans out there that are going to wave the SoulCon flag no matter where you land. And, that's it's kind of a mixed bag because you are, standing next to these other MCs are, worthy of respect and very talented individuals. And
one of them was the best man at my wedding. So like, it's not like I'm trying to see him, thrown under the bus or diminished in any way possible.
I don't think he was either. I thought
he was
that
fantastic.
Entire was great.
Yeah,
it was great.
Everyone had a great verse. And actually, can we touch on the battle raps a little bit?
Yes.
And would we even say that like, that's how you got your start, or is that a different way to put it, or is that just like part of what the process was for you to get where you are now?
It was a naive yet moderately productive way to jumpstart my name recognition.
I'd say very productive.
Yeah, the name recognition was very productive.
Yeah.
Just name recognition, just in the sense that I can go to any state in America and I could probably have someone stop me and say, hey, it's SoulCon. That's cool. That's neat stuff. Mm-hmm. Unproductive part. Hey, man, when are you going to jump back in the battle ring? That's the tough part, because that's a never-ending cycle if you indulge it. And I say, I'm not until further notice. So, sorry. Music time. As it has been, that's the crazy thing. Like, it's been 4 years, almost 5. And that's the thing, because there's no timeline or context on YouTube.
Right.
But there is. People don't look for it. Yeah. That's the thing. There is a timeline. There is a context. No one is actually looking at it. And that's not really YouTube's fault. To be fair to that, it's not YouTube's fault. They put when it was uploaded.
Yeah.
But if you look at the last battle I did, it was a while ago. And if people actually stopped and looked at it, they'd say they'd feel less excited about the prospect of an impending battle return, because they realize it's such a distant possibility.
Yeah.
So much time's passed, but they don't. And people hit me up like, hey, man, I just watched your blah, blah, blah versus blah, blah, blah. It was crazy. Man, you really killed that guy. And it's like, back when I was doing that, I was like living in an apartment by myself, eating beans every day out of a can, and like being miserable. Like, that wasn't like a phase of my life that I'm like, oh, the glory days. I was like a kid. I was really a kid. I used to say dumb stuff. Even though I didn't mean it, I was like not considerate of the impact of my words in battling and sometimes in music. And I just, I hadn't grown up yet. I was a intellectual and emotional late bloomer. So I may have talked a really good game, but you're basically looking at a man-child
Right. Well, I mean,
rapping.
that's the whole point of it. It's like you rap battle. It's kind of like, I mean, you know, and this may be an extended metaphor, but you know, you battle to get better at it. It's sort of like jamming with your band. You get better at it, then you move on. Like, because that's how the dude you're battling with or the girl you're battling with, that's how you become better MCs. It's not that you want to like, oh, I want to duke this person. It's that you both want to learn how to, you know, become better rappers, and then you move on from that, and then you learn from that, and then you go to the next thing.
That's how it was when I was a youngin', when I was really young. And then when I, like, that's the thing that's tough, because I and a few other people were part of a battle rap revival that assured that it would not help us in music at all. That's the thing. We like built a thing. And I used to not like credit myself with that, but like I did 20 battles in 2 years.
Wow.
Like people didn't do that. Yeah, people didn't do that back then. Well, they're short, you know, they're on the shorter end compared to now. But like that was 4 times as much as what anyone else was doing then. And like it was me and a few other people who were like providing free battle entertainment to people every couple months for no money too. No money. So like that's the thing. People be like, whoa, did you make all this money from that? I was like, nah. No. And even if I did, the work versus money ratio is dumb, is stupid. If anyone ever wanted to say you should have a career in battle rap, you need to have a career in not giving people advice. That's what, because it's not, unless you want to live in squalor or you or a very modest, you know, life, and be angry all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, falsely and pretend to be mad at people. No, it's not a career. It's not. And heck, even making the events happen is barely a career. It's tough. That's usually it's like a side thing for the people involved.
So it seems like you put that behind you, you know, pretty quickly, and then you know, semi recently, but there was a you know, sort of transition into not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
And then so now you have new record coming out.
Yes.
Later this summer. Yeah. Solcon has a bunch of EPs up on his website, solcon.com. Everyone should check it out. But the new record coming out later this year, right?
Yes. Yeah. And it's going to be, you know, the best attempt I can make at, I guess you could say, trying to stay ahead of the curve sonically, but without being a weirdo.
Okay, you need to expand on that.
Yeah.
Talk about
I feel
that.
yeah, no, because I love, you know, conventional music. I love bizarre music. I love the area between the two and the overlap, and in all genres. But I don't like to listen to something of mine and think, this will leave too many people who are my early fans in a lurch. And that's not to say that artists should be chained to past expectations forever.
Well, is
but,
that, I mean, is that, you know, production? Is that cadence?
It's everything. It's every aspect. Yeah. The beats that I picked for the album from J57 are all ones that even at their most left field are still hip hop beats. And there's a grit to all of them. They all are, for the most part, based on what you'd think of as like hip hop drums. You know, you wouldn't be like, oh, that's just a house song masquerading, you know, in rap clothes. It's you know, very much,
which is very identifiable. A house song masquerading in rap clothes.
Yeah, I mean, you can hear them say, yeah, and like that's not like invalid, and there are ways to do that's very artfully and not in like a cheesy way, but they're actually, you know, there's one song on the album that actually is very like up tempo, upbeat, hopefully without coming off as corny. But if it's corny to some people, I guess it's inescapable if you do anything positive. But a lot of the album is just very contemplative and brooding, but I don't think that's a problem anymore. I think that used to be, I think until very recently, you could get away with like only a few wavelengths emotionally in rap and expect to do big things.
Right.
You might have a fan base and like a comfortable niche for yourself if you went off the rails. But you know, right now there's a lot of sad bastard rap. They're all over the place.
Don't knock Drake on purpose, right?
No, and that's thing I love, and that's something I really enjoy, and I think that's important to have that,
right? Especially
for men. I think there needs to be a space carved out where vulnerability is articulated rather than avoided or derided. Yes, that's something that, you know, because music is part of culture, and culture informs values, behavior. Yeah, and it says like it's okay to like that. A lot of music that, you know, basically said, "Man up." And all the music I listened to plenty of music that was very, you know, emotionally rounded, but. You know, it's there has to be a broader continuum, and not just in like independent hip hop or just in like, you know, underground hip hop or just, you know, it has to be every single level. Otherwise, we don't mature as human beings.
Right.
If we just don't mature out in the open. And it's also an album that really actually reflects my values, and there's nothing I've like fine-tooth combed it, and I don't think there's anything to be like, I'll regret saying that later, or this is not something a grown-up would say with
whatever that is. But like,
yeah, I don't like provoking just for the sake. I just don't like shock value or provocation for the sake of provocation. In any case, in any sense, it has to serve a purpose. I don't like kicking people when they're down, unless they spent their whole life kicking people.
Yeah.
You know, there's too much degradation and alienation in
bullying.
Just everything that just like in life. It just, you know, and I don't like that. It's tiring to see other people just like exhausted by it. Mm-hmm. You know, you just look around, you go every time, you know, I look at Twitter a lot. And I think my wife thinks that I just do it for just like, you know, laughs and music stuff. And I do a lot of that, and like for news and stuff like that. But I sometimes use it as a sort of like up to the minute barometer of what people are like in a cultural moment, in a span of time, and sometimes it's a narrow span of time, sometimes. And you learn two things. One, stuff is like flying at them by the second, and they like, whether it's the music you make or the TV shows they watch, or, you know, viral video, whatever, anything, or political events, things fly at them at like light speed, and they are like reacting in public, and so we don't know what they're, you know, and I don't, it often looks like they're reacting as like a performance to like hide how they actually feel about these events of the world around them. And I don't know, I just want to make music that makes people feel comfortable and reassured that it's going to be cool.
And I think that comes off, and that's actually one of my favorite things about your music specifically. It's that like I feel like audiences are very they're in tune with whether or not someone is just doing it because it's like, this will work and this will be awesome, and I'm going to say this, and then it'll sell this many. So like, your records are always genuine. They're from a specific place where you could keep your audience in tune and put out a record like Speeding Bullets with a hilarious video, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. And then you can do Iron Galaxy or more serious stuff. And it's like, this is SoulCon. I know SoulCon, and it makes sense to your audience, and it gets new fans in there as well, where they can discover someone that has an actual voice that's not just sitting there and being like, I'm going to drop this beat, or I'm going to say something that's crazy, or I'm going to call out this person on a track, even though I don't know them, or I don't know anything about them or anything like that, you know?
I may call out people in the future, but it'll be for a good reason.
It's for a reason, exactly.
For a reason.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Never going to be for publicity. Ever.
Well, you're talking about how you're using Twitter, and of course we follow you on Twitter, and we see what you're talking about, and I think that there's a level of authenticity there that is worthy of people's attention, and I think that you bring that to your music, not just, obviously on the albums and the music that Arshan was talking about, but even, the Team Backpack Cypher that we were talking about earlier. There was, genuine angst. I don't know if it was just the punk rock seeped into CBGB's walls or anything like that, but there's a real
I was about to lose my
fervor
mind.
to
Yeah,
it.
that was after a period of I was legit about to lose my mind with everything. I had like a nervous breakdown basically after the Michael Brown outcome, and double that after Eric Garner, and like I just didn't know what to do anymore. And it'd be one thing if you're like, oh man, the system's messed up, but at least people will be on your side and on the side of justice or like humanity. And then I go on and I see like fans of mine who are like not down with that. And that was really upsetting. That was trouble. That made me think like, oh, what an uphill battle is to make the world like not horrible. That's like, that was so discouraging. And so if I looked like haggard, someone said on the Team Backpack video, it was like, oh, Soulcon looked shook. And it was like, I wasn't shook. I basically was like scrambling to be a functioning human being in the months and weeks leading up to that.
Well, it felt like an adrenaline-fueled performance.
Thank you.
And I don't mean that it was frantic, but it seemed urgent. Maybe that's the right way to put it.
I mean, it's also a hard thing when you sort of feel like things happen that are supposed to happen in a certain way, and then you almost have no control. It's like society is supposed to go from A to B, and then right after that should be C. And then if it makes sense, then it makes sense. But there was a point in time where if you're watching society, or if you care about society, or if it's something that you've cared about for a long time, that it just doesn't make sense. And then how do you marry those two things and then, just put out more of your product without even like thinking about that? So
I get caught up in it.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. And my manager Byron's in the room, and I feel his pain at seeing me like clearly like publicly melt down on the internet while an album's not finished. And and that's part of my need to develop as a person and how to like deal with the world. But sometimes if I don't just get it out there, I'll just explode. Like I'll just scream. I don't know what else to do.
I think that like, the saving grace there in that you put too much pressure on yourself to have to be like, I have to know what to do in this situation. I think a lot of people didn't know what to do. So I think it's okay to be like, to have that breakdown. I think that breakdown is important. And I think it's what makes everyone that's trying to deal with that, the next person or the better person after that, especially if you can deal with it in a rational way, which I feel like you did.
I hope. It's tough. I think it may be unreasonable to expect anyone to grapple with gross injustice and things that don't make sense like that. I mean, forget about me. Anyone who's like, I'm not subjected to police misconduct ever. I'm a angry outside agitator, a witness to it, and that's not really that bad. Like I'm fine in terms of the quality of life. I'm at the top of the pyramid there, and that's frustrating. It's not disempowering. That's the thing. Like I want to like make that note. There's nothing about my situation that's disempowering. I have as much power as one could want in America just by being born.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And that I'm cognizant of that all the time. But I don't know how to do anything with it that's productive on the micro or macro scale that's not just swatted down or that's not just like invalidated by something else much larger. Music is the best way I've been able to get it across. That's the best thing so far, because people can get solace from it or can be inspired by it.
For sure.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But that's so that's the other side of it. Like it's like I spend this time like venting on the internet and like and being overwhelmed by things and not being able to write. But then if I do write and get something out there, it actually it serves in the long term, more people, because obviously like Twitter and Facebook are big echo chambers of opinions and feelings. But I don't know. I after lately I've realized there's this weird I don't know what to call it. I guess maybe like I don't know what you call it, like hip hop conservatives. I don't know if you call it that exactly, or like I don't know. It's just you get kind of like this weird, like the people who are attracted to rap, often men who are attracted, like white men attracted to rap because it was tough or because it was provocative or subversive, but they didn't get the whole, you know, racial dimension of it.
Right.
You know, that's like it's sort of like if someone like listened, you know, to jazz and tried to separate it from Black history. But now we're actually in a media saturated age where you can see every angle of that attempt to separate, you know, race from music. And so that when like issues of politics and society come up that are racially charged, these dudes who often, you know, they listen to me because they're like, he raps really good and he looks like me. They might not be on the right team when you know, when everything hits the fan. And that's tough because I don't know how to communicate to them like, yo, you don't know what you signed up for. You may not actually know why this is something that this thing that you listen to, you may not know what created it or what led to it. You should probably do that. You should probably learn it. Well, but by that time, they're not going to be like, you know, they're not going to go back often and listen to Public Enemy, It Takes a Nation. You know, they're not going to listen to X-Clan. They're not going to listen to by all means necessary. They're not going to listen to these things because they sidestepped it deliberately.
Right. Well, at the same time, I feel like you touched on a good point earlier, saying, you know, there's this media saturation. There's, you know, people get to see things from all these angles, and I think that, I mean, obviously as an outsider of the hip hop community, but someone who loves the music, I see a lot of mainstream artists that are really shining a light on a lot of the political issues and a lot of those things in a way that hasn't been done in a really long time. I mean, you know, Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole are both putting out really great records that are trying to be, I don't know if conscious is the right word, but it's definitely out there. They're putting issues of the hip hop community in front of people in a way that hasn't been done in a really long time. I mean, do you see hip hop changing directions in a certain way?
No, it's a great time. I stopped being like a hip hop cynic years ago because it doesn't help. And by years, I mean multiple years, not like many years ago, but multiple, not many. That's something that is heartening to know that, you know, music that's being made right now has kind of like an even chance to be mindless and decadent, or subversive and perhaps responsible.
And even at the same time.
And they can, but yeah, exactly. That they exist on the same continuum. That's not. They can coexist and they can overlap, and it's fine. And you don't have to throw away the good just because the bad exists. You can engage and say like, well, that's really good. This isn't so good. Let's talk about why it's not so good. That's something that I wish more music fans did. People are tripping off of like, you know, this is amazing. This sucks. You overrated this thing that you think is amazing. You underrated this thing that you think sucks. Like,
right.
And just people.
You sound like my Twitter feed right now.
Right. And it's like, and that's the problem that's the complication of social media because everyone's competing to express their opinion the loudest and best and earliest, and that doesn't help. You don't get the chance to actually contemplate anything.
Right, because everyone is constantly criticizing stuff and is getting ready to knock it down.
Album reviews suck now because of it. They're horrible. Not because the album comes out and everyone has it the exact same time. In fact, they already had it before you did potentially. If you're in the music press and you're trying to acquire it legitimately, and then you're like, all right, you're gonna listen to the album once, maybe twice. write about it.
My favorite thing is when people like they try to act like they liked it before you liked it, so you liking it after they like it doesn't make it make sense.
Right. And that's what did you win? You won not like there's no. I think that's the thing. Like you get there are a lot of non-existent measures of merit that people use and really believe in, and there's completely imaginary and arbitrary, and it things like that, like being the first one who enjoyed something.
Yeah.
You didn't make it, but I think it makes people feel like they made it. That's the thing. I think it makes you feel like you were part of its success, and you're not, unfortunately.
Well,
like, I mean, you're one tiny percent of the success. Very fans are all very important. Listeners are very important in isolation and in aggregate, but there is a vanity and an irresponsibility in assigning yourself as a fan, and I say this as a fan of many artists, the credit of propelling an artist to where they are, because what about the art that you enjoyed?
Yeah.
Right.
They did it first. Without that, you would just be sitting at home like poking each other with sticks.
Well, that sort of speaks to what, so like, one of our badges of honor is that when we discovered, well, we don't want to say we discovered SoulCon, but our first foray into your music was through Abaraki, the karate video.
Right.
And that was really early on. And, we sort of wear that as like, we were into this, and it was great. It was incredible. It's one of our favorite videos. We're actually just like jamming out to it earlier today.
Well,
so
it's kind of funny because the story goes a little bit deeper than that, because we were, I think, a company for maybe 3 months when we held a music video contest for CMJ in association with the Delhi magazine. And that music video got submitted. And, me not being a close follower of the battle rap scene, I saw that and it was just blown away. I mean,
awesome.
Because the video is hilarious and fun, and then you pop in and do your verse, and it's like, who the fuck is this guy? What's going on?
Wow, I didn't know.
And now we've lusted after you ever since, so I apologize for that.
Do you and Aki have any more collaborations in the near future? Maybe say yes.
I hope. Yeah. Well, yeah. He's on my. Yeah. No. He's on the next album, and he's he's doing a bunch of stuff. Aki is one of my best friends from college. I've known him for. Wow. Over 10 years.
You don't have to say how long ago you were in college.
10 years. I know him for. I knew him. I graduated in 2007, so I have no age. I got over the age thing this year. This past year, I think when I turned 29, I was like, I don't care anymore.
I'm 32. I'm still not over it. I'm still fighting it every day.
You'd be happy to 26. Be alive. It's all that matters. Yeah, it just, I had a mantra when I got out of my mid-20s, like when mid-20s was just ending. And it was partially inspired by J57 of Brown Bag. And it's 2 Chainz blew up at the age of 37. And like, that is like pretty amazing. Not that his music career started then. And that's not to say like, whoa, that old asshole, like not like that. Like it just.
But I mean, you could say the same thing for Run the Jewels. They're 39, I think,
and
that's which is ancient in hip hop years.
Killer Mike did he have a Grammy? I guess by like 2 Grammys by like
2 Grammys, yeah.
In his 20s, but like in his late 20s, but an LP was like killing independent hip hop as we knew it.
Yeah, Def Jux Records, and
he made a really important pillar of hip hop at the time, at a younger age even. But yeah, I know like they're right now. There's like this ill run of Run the Jewels. That was not a pun intended because it's a terrible pun if it was.
Ill run of the Jewels.
Like this like they're on a hot streak right now, but they're 2 like very adult. People, and that's useful to see because it shows that there's longevity in hip hop, and we're getting over this sort of like, if they don't look cool in young people clothes, then throw them into the Sarlacc pit. Like,
if you're not famous, you're not successful. Like that's
another one. It's
but hip hop's been battling that for so long, though. I mean, hip hop as a genre has existed for decades, and you'll never see like an oldies hip hop radio format. You'll never see.
I think we're gonna get there.
I do too.
I think we will.
I'm so excited to get there.
I think K-Day in LA has a shot at becoming that and evolving into that, because it already does a lot of stuff that's older, and doesn't seem to like dwell and linger in the what's hot right now, what's new right now. But like the, you know, as far as like even you look at it, and it's weird because you look at old school hip hop. They didn't look that young back then. Maybe that's just because everyone looked older if you look at old videos. But like everybody in, you know, Flash and the Furious 5, they all look like they were like 30 and up. Yeah. And they weren't. Like they were in the, you know, and maybe some were up, more advanced in years.
I just saw Africa Bambaata's DJing like tomorrow, I think, in Brooklyn. It's like, what?
He's a man of many years. Yeah. So he like, and he's, Emma Grant, he's like a founding figure, but like that's, I like it when I see an artist who really comes up or like really has their breakthrough moment when they're in their mid 30s or later, not just for my own reassurance, but because it's a good sign, because every other genre gets that and why can't hip hop? That was something like that's something that like I think is an important indicator that I used to take for granted, how old the field is of musicians, and old or new. You know, if you can't have grown-ups blowing up, then your music isn't grown up.
I mean, because
hip hop's relatively new compared to other genres. Like, I mean, it's now, 40 years old, but that's still, rock's got it. Yeah, exactly.
Things go,
yeah.
It's also like an unfair almost scale to put it on. It's like, there definitely is the younger audience, but I mean every genre has that. So yeah for sure. So we're here with Solcon in the bar, just talking about music, talking about hip hop. Let's talk a little bit about what goes into we talked a little bit about your songwriting process, and one of the things that I wanted to bring up, and I this is sort of like one of my favorite things about your music, is that every now and then, sprinkled in your lyrics, there's a really great nerdy reference that I personally just take like, oh, was that a little Star Trek reference there at the beginning, or did he just say something about Boba Fett, or so can we talk a little bit about like, there's certain things that make us all the subculture, and I feel like being a nerd now is the coolest thing. Yes, and it's like I've been a nerd forever, and it's like, where have you all been?
It's like it doesn't even.
Thanks a lot, Chris Hardwick.
Right, and it's like nerdiness doesn't even exist, because everyone's into it, which is weird. That's the thing. Like, what is the point of like for those of us like you or me who like grew up, with those social structures and stereotypes, like those are the nerds and those are the jocks and those are blah. And even when we were growing up with it, it was like, this is still corny. Like, this is like, as of the 90s, that was really stupid, because it was really dumb. I guess it's okay in the 80s, because that's when like it was the, Revenge of the Nerds was out in theaters. Like, that was like a funny thing. But
I didn't tell any of my friends that I watched Star Trek: The Next Generation, but now I have a Star Trek Enterprise tattoo.
That's amazing. On my arm. That's amazing.
And like growing up, I was like, oh yeah, I don't play the alto sax. I just play baseball. But then now it's the coolest thing ever.
Isn't that crazy that music was, and I remember that.
The nerdy instrument.
You're in band class, and it's like, yeah, they're playing instruments. You listen to music at home. What are you making fun of them for?
Look,
like
nerds that can read sheet music. Check this guy out.
I didn't get that at all. That was one of those things in high school and middle school. I was like, it blew me away, and I was like, I actually had to ask someone, like, wait, because I was, I was like this like gangly kid with giant glasses and braces, but like, very like socially accepted, luckily, and that and rapping helped that too later on. But just, I actually had to ask, like, what's wrong with being in band?
Yeah.
I wish I had made that choice earlier, because once you don't make that choice, I always like, I was one of those kids like, I want to be in the band. No, you had to start when you were like 9. You can't do this anymore. Like, it was, they were very like strict, and I was discouraged from being in music class because I didn't hop on the train early enough. But but I could tell, like, there are these weird, stupid, made up things that people have and hang-ups they have, like, you're a nerd because you play the trumpet. you're a nerd because you have a genetic vision impairment, so therefore you have to wear things on your face. You're a nerd.
Tell that to Geordie LaForge, ladies and gentlemen. Right?
Amazing.
The chief engineer of the Enterprise.
And once you grow up, and that's the thing that's frustrating, you grow up and you realize all these things are dumb as hell. Like, LeVar Burton's like, he inspired a generation to love books.
Shout out to Reading Rainbow.
Shout out
So
to Reading
incredible.
Rainbow.
That's
Powerful Reading
amazing. If
Rainbow.
you think about that, to make children's lives more cultivated and happy. If you can't appreciate that, you're a pretty
You're a savage.
rotten person.
It's a horrible,
it's messed up.
horrible,
You need
dark
to work on
black
yourself.
hole in your soul.
Yeah, and you grow up and you think about how incredible some of the stuff is that people did, people who were considered nerds, but yet so many of us who make that realization was like, oh, this is really good. But I'm still going to reinforce these things, like, I don't want my kid to be looked at as a nerd. And it's like, tell your kid to just be your kid. Just do that. Like, why don't you just stop thinking of these stupid... Because these things give our lives contours and shapes and meaning, and we don't know how to just make up our own shit. That's the thing. And I don't know how to make up my whole own world. It's difficult. It's easier to let the world make it up for you. But being a nerd in some terms, or a geek, like being into stuff, that's what's really weird about it. It's being into some stuff.
Yeah.
And it's stuff that, and you know what's crazy about that? I knew it was in my school, there were two types of kids who were into comic books.
Me.
You.
And
where it's like the quote unquote, but it was that was like a divide. It was like nerds, or like the kids who comic books. They get comic books. They cost way less than books.
Yeah.
And they're cool and they're fun escape. You're talking about like a class divide too. Like all the rappers I listened to, grew up in the hood reading comic books, and I was like, well, I read comic books too. And it like was weird gap.
Did you say it like that?
Yeah, I did. That's my voice.
I'm sorry, that was a little bit of bullying.
That's my voice.
I'm sorry.
My voice
that
changed.
was really inappropriate.
But like, no, it's like, no, it's fine. It's that's the thing. Like, why? Like, I was like, why did I don't have to feel ashamed of comic books. Method Man named himself after Ghost Rider's like real name, Johnny Blaze. He calls himself that all the time. Like, why would I feel ashamed? Who am I trying to impress? You or Method Man? I'm gonna stick with Method Man. Like, that's the thing. Like, that's the thing. Hip hop, there were so many different facets of it that made me realize all the stupid, mundane, like child and high school shit I go through was like fleeting and stupid, and the stuff that some people made fun of me for was fine in other environments. And that's another thing I realized listening to hip hop and hearing music that really expressed its environment, because hip hop does that in a way that a lot of music doesn't.
It can't.
And you can't, because it's much more, it's more biographical than any other genre. I could hear that people in Houston, people in Carson, people in Columbus, they all agreed on some things being really cool or interesting or admirable, but they all had their own different things that they thought were stupid or great, or slang they use, or slang they had no idea about from somewhere else. And I was like, if things are so different in so many different places, why are any of the things that I or anybody else had to feel bad about, they're like superficial or like fleeting, like the way you talk, the way you look, the way, whatever, anything, any aspect, like the superficial stuff, the very surface stuff. Why does it matter? Because that outfit you're wearing looks stupid to someone one town over.
How
That's
dare
slang
they
you're
say
using
that
here.
about me?
Yeah, like, yeah, exactly. Like, I realized, and I was like, so that helped me. Hip hop was instrumental in me seeing how big the world was. Because I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, and it's in a way it's got a lot to it, but it's also insular, which is weird because it's a part of LA County, and there are people who like work in the entertainment industry there, and it's very multicultural. But at the same time, there's a very much like, get out of my area where my car is and my house.
Yeah.
It's very.
Right, and I mean, and according to Clueless, you're 20 minutes from everything in LA, anywhere you are, right?
Oh, I would. Yeah, well, at least.
Unless you're trying to get on the 405 for anything, then you're looking at like an hour 15, hour and a half.
I don't know what any of those numbers mean, John.
Used to sit on the freeway for in excess of an hour to like, and there was actually one time we just got out of our car. Just got out of the car and stood there and just looked. All got out. I mean, I'm almost like philosophically against cars. I want to drive, and I wanted to drive, and I was like, no, I'm not going to drive. And then now I realize I should drive, but I still am like, I don't want to drive. It's so terrible.
It's great
because
you give up a subway, or like you give up a bustling metropolis like LA where you're always in a car. I grew up outside of DC, so it's a huge suburban area, so we drove everywhere. But you come to New York and you're not sitting in a car for a half hour. You're sitting on the L train, or you're sitting on the R or the Q as it meanders over the bridge. It's like, oh, I'm only 2 stops away, but it's going to take me 20 minutes sometimes.
It will, but you don't have to drive.
Exactly.
And you don't have to do anything.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Uber needs Google driverless cars all over the place. We're going to get there, and that's really exciting.
And a driverless car cannot sexually harass you, which is a really good thing, as to my knowledge.
Well, I mean,
look, the technology is still young. We can have some driverless cars that will sexually
harass you. I guess it depends on how
if I could quote Jeff Goldblum, nature finds a way.
Life finds a way.
Wow, that's a good life.
Wasn't it
Is it Life Finds a Way? I think it's
Life Finds a Way. Sorry, guys. I misquoted Jeff Goldblum.
But yeah.
Look, one of the things about nerd culture is that you're going to get viciously corrected.
I'm okay with it.
But it's in the interest of learning and refinement. Yeah, and being in that environment that I grew up in, it seemed like you were just everything everyone said about you was so, and also as a kid, so you're very like sensitive. Everything that is happening then is like is true, right? And if you don't fit in, you're just and you could say that about many places, but the San Fernando Valley it's not a place of and people could disagree with me about this. They're wrong or they're lying to themselves. At least then, it was not a place of community in a lot of those areas that I grew up around. It was very much selfishness and
in Los Angeles, get out of here.
LA proper is like actually really dope. That's the thing. I love LA. The Valley. It's like a people. I don't know what is in the water there. Like there are a lot of folks that are just. This will exemplify it. So my mom, I moved her out of her house. My sister, I moved her out of her house that we grew up in this past year, and she lived in that house for 30 years. 30 years, okay, in Woodland Hills, California. My mom's like, she's on the older side. And so she wasn't doing any of this stuff. She shouldn't be doing any of this stuff herself. And yet she still did, just because in leading up to us going there, trying to move stuff, trying to get stuff out, dump stuff that needed to be dumped. Legit, not one person the whole time I was there or in the days leading up to it, did anyone try to like stop and say, hey, can I help you with that? Oh, you're leaving? Blah, blah, blah. None of that.
Wow.
In New York City, which is reputed as a quote unquote rude place, I could probably fall down saturated with my own urine in front of a stranger, and I have a pretty good chance of them like carrying me to safety and save my life.
Yeah.
Straight up. And I know people who have been in situations like that dire or worse, and complete strangers have helped them, or multiple people have helped them. And where I grew up, people didn't do that. They didn't do that. It was very much, I got to make sure that my car is intact and my small business is functioning well, and my property taxes are low, and that my kid doesn't get abducted. Child abductions were so huge back when I was growing up. It was the biggest thing.
I'm going to come to the defense
so low
of the Valley.
too.
I'm going to come to the defense of the Valley. I lived in Burbank for a year.
Well, Burbank still, that's not really, that's like...
It's not really the Valley, I understand.
No, that's the studios.
But here's the thing, is if you talk to someone who's in Los Angeles proper, Burbank is outer space. But...
It makes all their money. It makes all their tax revenue. They gotta be grateful.
It does. You got
they got an airport there, right?
They have the Bob Hope Airport. It's a wonderful place. Best way to get to Las Vegas.
Who?
From what I understand. But I will say that as far as community goes, I've met some lifelong friends there in that area who.
But Burbank, right?
In Burbank.
That's why.
Well, they lived outside of Burbank.
Burbank, Studio City, and that's it. You got Burbank.
That's it. Shout out to Burbank. That's Studio City.
I went to North Hollywood High School. If I had a knife in my back and I passed out on a front lawn after school, someone would call the sanitation department to get my body off, probably after it was dead.
Well, thankfully,
before
they
would call the 911, or they would call 911 and say, "I'm afraid for my safety." Like there was such, and it's weird. There was such a disdain for kids in the valley,
really?
And I don't know. People go out there to raise kids. People go there to have families, and there was such. I don't get it. Like, I always felt so despised, and I was like a really nice kid overall. I had some like rough times, but like I was like pretty polite. I remember the library my mom used to work at in the West Valley. The cop that was posted there said that the kids in that neighborhood who went to El Camino High School and Hale Middle School were literally the worst children he'd ever encountered in his whole life, and he only worked at 2 places, there and in South Central. And he said that the only difference is those kids where I live didn't have an excuse and they didn't have any guns. That was the only difference.
Can I ask a question? And there's a high school named after a car, or is that?
No, it's named after the mission and the road, the mission, El Camino Real.
Oh.
And which is horrible because there's a weird thing in Southern California where they really like celebrate colonial history.
Oh, and so is this like the Mission Trail, like San Luis Obispo, all the way down? Like,
it's like it's connect. It's like religions. It's that type of thing. It's awful. And they be like in 4th grade, to be like, all right, we're gonna build dioramas of missions. And my mom was like, that's like building a concentration camp. So you're not going to be doing that. And I'm gonna write you a note that says my child's not gonna be doing that.
Oh, my mom wrote notes too.
Yeah,
they're the best.
Oh, it's so offensive to do like. Yeah, the El Camino High School, the school I specifically did not go to, because it was down the street from me. I could have walked to school every single day and I could have gotten up at 7:40 and be like, I'm in school. And like, that's every teenager's dream, right? Like,
absolutely.
That's like, that'd be incredible.
I had to be at the bus stop at 6:20.
The kids there were demon spawn. I was like, I saw them and how they treated each other and other people. And I was like, no, I'm not going to be among this. My mom raised me better than this. I'm not going to be in this cesspool. And I didn't go there. I skipped over Taft High School, which was the next one over. I was like, these kids are abominable. And I went to North Hollywood in like the magnet program. And even though that had its own complications, still better environment. But the West Valley, this is another, like El Camino High School, their mascot was the Conquistador. That's literally like having your mascot be brutal. A Nazi,
or like the Redskins,
straight up on the other end. Yeah, yeah. Like the Custers or something like that. Like it's so messed up, and I'm not sad to be gone ever. And I feel bad saying that because like I said, I love LA, and I love some parts of the Valley. My neighborhood, I will unless it experiences radical change, I will never miss it. It never informed some aspect of my musical upbringing, my cultural upbringing. It was like I felt like Luke on the desert planet. Is it Tatooine? Where he
Tatooine,
grew up?
Tatooine, yeah.
I felt like Luke on Tatooine, except my parents were my real.
So
parents.
You wanted to go to Sochi Station to get some power converters.
Exactly.
But it had nothing to do with you being able to pilot an X-Wing correctly.
No.
That's just so Soul Khan's innate ability to rap had nothing to do with the fact that he grew up in a horrible, horrible place.
Yeah,
right?
And keep in mind, using horrible just describe it as wretched, not difficult. It's comfortable. It's everything is made to be comfortable. Like there are 4 shopping malls in a half-mile radius from my home.
I think it's safe
really
to say that
up.
any place that someone calls home they're gonna be able to find their faults in it if you spend enough time anywhere.
I
promise.
Well, you know what? You're right. You're right. That definitely when you go to any, heck, in New York, people say, I love New York, but I hate this, and they'll spend an hour saying everything is wrong.
New York is my favorite cesspool.
But it's now it's just like I leave my neighborhood and it's all like if you go to Manhattan, the first thing you see is 12 Walgreens.
Yep, at least.
It's like you walk out of the subway. It's like,
I think you're overlooking the Dwayne Reed.
Walgreens, Chase. I thought I was coming to New York, the never-ending cipher of freestyling and hip-hop realness. And I came to a giant Chase Walgreens Starbucks. But that's all of America. Like that's not unique to New York at all.
And that sort of ties it back to, what we sort of touched on in the beginning was how, there's that innate sense that you want to be in this place and you want to, you want to experience that culture where you saw it being awesome. Like I grew up listening to the Pixies and Nirvana. So if I moved to Seattle right now, I couldn't just put on flannel and start shooting heroin and be like, I'm authentic as shit. So like you come
here. You
here.
do that anywhere, probably. The flannel's fine, but the heroin ain't gonna.
Heroin's not good. All right, I'll remember that. But then you come here, and then it's sort of like that almost. I mean, not that everyone comes here expecting to just, it's going to be the exact same way, but I feel like in a lot of ways, where you grow up, no matter how you grew up or whether or not you enjoyed it, it still has to inform at least some sense of like what you don't want to be like or you don't want to be like anymore.
That's
right.
valuable. You can't.
Well, I think there's a maturity in learning the lessons of that as well.
Yeah. Oh, and there was this right after college, first semester, I was like, I'm really glad to be home. And then as soon as like the next semester, I think all my friends and I stopped talking to each other from home, but not out of like that's just growing up. And I was like, I have nothing invested here anymore. And I was like, I just never wanted to go back.
Yeah.
Just because without the people you experience things with, you just have a bunch of places. To be fair, and where I grew up was deliberately built to be cookie cutter and oriented toward like
planned
stuff, tract housing, mall. Like really, there are 4 separate shopping malls in a half-mile radius from where I grew up, and who does that help? We don't need that many.
Have you gone back and done any shows like in your hometown or
I did one
seen
in
any
LA.
of the old crew?
I did one in LA, and it was pretty cool-ish. There were some externalities that messed it up a little bit, but I couldn't control those. I should go back and do a show. I really want to go back to the spot if it's still open. I don't know if it is. There's a spot called the Cobalt Cafe.
Okay.
In the West Valley, and it was a place where like all the high school rock bands would play. Awesome. And occasionally like just like adults playing music too, but that was like the spot where like the indie rock kids would play and the hardcore kids would play. And there was like almost no hip hop there ever, sadly. But I want to do, if I blow up, I'm gonna go do a free show there. Cobalt Cafe. If
Cobalt
it still
Cafe,
exists,
are you listening?
Yo, it could right
you get
now.
A free
it could be an
Soulcon
H&R
show.
Block. I don't know. At this point, there could be anything. And if it, or just I just want to do a show in the Valley because I do have a lot of fans there, and I feel their pain. Unless they're of that weird variety of people that will only live in a place because of the weather. I can't relate to that. I can appreciate it.
Yeah.
I can't. Weather is off the list for me at this point. You could put me in an Arctic outpost if it was like a bustling metropolis. I don't care.
I like that.
I saw a great thing about how North Dakota is like a new tech hub, and I was like, that looks really awesome.
I think that's because
I think that's a lie. I think it's just an oil hub.
No, I actually heard this, and we don't have to go off on this tangent, but I'm going to say I think I heard it. Apparently, they put a bunch of money into teaching their students how to fly drones. So there's a lot of tech hubness around there. So you can learn how to be a drone pilot and then go kill brown people.
You kill a wedding party instead of terrorists. Drones.
That's what it is. That's
such bad news drones. Oh, man. That's something. Man, that's upsetting. That whole world of drone. Every time I got friends who are like, yo, we used a drone to film a music video. I'm like, and they use it to kill children. And they're like, wah, wah, wah. And I was like, well, don't say drone around me. just keep it out the conversation.
I was at a bachelor party this summer, and a buddy of mine, he bought a drone online, and it's just he brought it to the bachelor party, and we got drunk, and we're gonna go out and just fly it up. So he turns it on, it goes straight up into the air, and he's like, sometimes I lose the signal and I can't control it correctly, and I'm like, that's not good. And then it goes up, and then
Did it drop a bomb on you after?
No, there was nothing on it. We didn't put any books on there or any kind of like WMDs or anything, but it just went straight up.
2 options.
And then we look at it, and he's like, okay, yeah, I don't have control of this anymore. And then he puts the controller down and we all just run in 4 different directions. And then it slowly just comes down. So, I mean, if a 29-year-old drunk kid can't control a drone, what makes us think the government can?
They can't.
Right, exactly.
They literally can't.
Man,
or
we're
they
asking
can,
the powerful questions
they
today.
can, or they don't do it for the right reasons.
And we're not looking for answers. We're just asking these questions.
That's the whole thing where that's I like being in music because it's one of those things where I could say even the worst things in music don't really compare to the worst things of most other institutions of society.
Right.
They really don't. Like, even really offensive music, you could turn it off.
Yeah.
Or you could, like, have a campaign against it, and it might work, and they'll yank it off the shelves or off of a website.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, there are things that get out of control with technology, with agriculture, and with hunting, and I'm just thinking of like various simple basic elements of living. They can go horribly wrong. Music, what's gonna happen? Like the worst things that might happen. What was that white supremacist like little girl group Prussian Blue? Like that's something.
Oh, yeah.
That's like the worst thing that could happen.
I read an article about that. They've completely changed.
Yeah,
their
no, they
ways
flipped
now,
around.
Apparently.
That's like the worst thing that could happen. You get that.
You get the white supremacists to flip over to the good guys' side.
That actually is, and that's the thing. It's a good outcome. So
it's progress,
and that's or like. I don't know, stuff that's there. There's obviously a lot of music that's popular that's degrading to all manners of already disempowered people and classes in society, and it sucks. And it does play an insidious role. It's not as bad as the political institutions that actually make that disempowerment like physical and a daily reality and like legally
and systematic.
Yeah, exactly.
And ingrained into things.
Yeah, and that's and obviously, like as I said before, culture informs values. But hey, the worst thing I'm ever gonna do is piss someone off. Probably the best thing I'm gonna probably do is, change someone's life. If I could do that'd be cool. If I could do that, there are a lot of people I think I've come across who will say like, "Yo, you could inspire me to rap." And that's a mixed bag because I'm like, oh, we don't really need that many more rappers. But I kind of was rapping. I was hoping to corner this market myself a little more.
You gotta realize the rap.
Message to everyone out there: don't learn to rap.
Don't rap. Learn folk guitar.
Rachel just got.
Don't
really
do
annoyed.
both at the same time.
Aspiring MC.
Don't rap with the acoustic guitar. I will fight you. I will. Yeah, that's what. It's a knife in the gut every time.
Ed Sheeran, you hear that?
Oh.
Well, he's different, but he does both things. Like, someone's like, look at these worlds collide. It's acoustic guitar and hip hop rhyming. Like that
is the whitest radio voice you could have done. That was amazing.
Thank you.
That was really good. It was Casey Kasem, I think.
Oh man, is he still alive?
He
was gone.
So.
No, he went missing.
He went missing, but then I think he died shortly after. I'm sure Twitter will be sure to reprimand us.
Let's move on. No more.
Where are you, Casey?
Hashtag RIP Casey.
Hashtag find Casey.
Casey with a K.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, as soon as we find Casey, let's talk more about. I wanted to bring up one of the last times I saw you live after Bonaroo. Yes. The supergroup performance, which I mentioned before, is on YouTube. Everyone can check it out there. Was at the Woods. I think it was you and Jay at the Woods.
That was fun.
It was
all a brown bag. We actually all turned
right.
Which is a rare thing.
It was awesome, and I remember it was like, wait, that's true. Like I haven't heard any dates of like brown bag doing stuff like since then. Or what I'm asking is, can we look forward to, since there's a new record coming out, some more SoulCon dates?
Yeah,
in the near future.
Once everything's done, then we'll start figuring out where to go with it, or where we can go with it. Because I don't, first we're actually going to be releasing a single, which is going to be dope. And
when can people expect that?
I think we can hear a B-side of that single at So Far Sounds, right?
Yeah, you heard it was definitely going to be a single off the album, a song called King Ugly. There's a live performance, So Far Sounds, and that's
a dope track.
They're great.
So
check it out.
YouTube search that one.
Yeah, King Ugly, SoulCon, King Ugly, but the single that's coming out before that is a bit of a deviation from the rest of the album because it's it's about encouraging people to be happy and with themselves. And I should use the word happy because some people are going to think, are you making your own version of Happy? Which would be I mean, that's a dope song. So
I'll make a video dancing to your music,
yeah.
Man. I ain't scared.
Yeah, you can if you want. You can dance if you want. You can leave your cares behind.
And if you don't dance, then what's the rest of it?
If
your friends don't dance, then they can't dance.
You know, they're no friends of mine.
Wait, we don't want to have to pay them, so let's stop doing the lyrics.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a good idea. Yeah, you know what? I wonder sometimes. I'm very referential in conversation, and I sometimes worry that if I drop something, someone like if I got famous and I was like making like quippy little references, someone's like, I'm just gonna sue you for that.
Right.
I don't even have merit.
It's like an undercover ASCAP agent is just waiting behind you.
Gonna bury you in litigation until you settle for
some
whatever.
Horrible publisher is just waiting in the wings with a lyric sheet.
They exist. They exist. So, oh man, there are times when I just because I used to. And by the way, this next album is all sample free, which is like a great milestone.
Dope.
But it doesn't sound like it, which is cool. Not that it's bad to sound sample free, but
it's produced. The whole thing's produced by J57.
Yeah,
awesome.
And I don't frankly care if something's sample free or not. I don't think that I don't give a damn. But
good music is good music.
Yeah, it's just that it means I won't get sued if it blows up. That's the thing that I really don't want. I just don't want all the work to go to someone's pocket who's dead.
Well, now someone's going to sample your beats and shit.
And they
like
can do that, and I would come to a much more reasonable agreement. That's the thing, people cut off their nose to spite their face when it comes to sampling. It's so sad. Mm-hmm. It's a whole generation of musicians that weren't making any money off of a lot of their music who could have come to sensible agreements with a lot of artists.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, short money versus long money, and short money often wins.
Yeah,
every day.
I mean, that's where the music came from.
Yeah.
Soulcon, thank you so much for coming today.
My pleasure.
I feel like we covered a lot of topics.
Hell yeah.
I want to make sure we let everyone know that you can find out more about Soulcon's old EPs on soulcon.com.
Yes.
The new record is dropping later this year. Follow Soulcon on Twitter at Soulcon. Make sure to check him out on YouTube. He has at least 12 or 35 dozen incredible videos. I can't do math.
Wait, hold on. Before we do this, before we wrap things up, and I know that we're short on time, but I have to know: can we expect any new music from Brown Bag All Stars?
We can
anytime in the near future.
Hell yeah!
Yeah, we're actually doing. This is it's not weird, but it's just like the most out of left field thing. We're doing a whole album with Bumpy Knuckles,
nice.
One of the most dangerous men in hip hop. And certainly a legend and an icon.
Dope.
Who I respect and admire, and it's been a cool process, and I don't think anyone's done that, like a whole group and a solo artist. We're gonna make an album together.
I dig it.
So that's gonna be cool.
When can we look for that? Give me an exact date.
Exact date.
Exact date. Yeah, I'm sure you have that.
That's all. We're probably looking at like summerish, fall.
All right.
Hopefully earlier, but it's hopefully summer and not fall. But it's gonna be dope, and it's very much for like the hip hop heads.
You heard it. The song of the summer is coming from Brown Bag All Stars.
Fuck yeah!
Well, the song of the summer. I'm hoping. This single. I'm telling y'all, it's nice. It's gonna make you feel real good.
We'll be sure to
look
for it. We'll include links to all of Soulcon's social media, YouTube, everything, so everyone can listen to all of your music.
Thank you.
Then, we're looking forward to the new album, man.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Thank you. It's going to sell like 5 copies.
5 copies.
And
strong.
If it sells 5,
there's only be one YouTube comment on every video. It's just gonna say first, and there's not gonna be anything else. Might get 10 views. That's what I'm. I'm looking forward to something that's disappointing.
All right, look, I want the second person out there to write second on all of Soulcon's YouTube videos.
That should be a thing.
This needs to happen. I can't allow just the
There's
first
no one who's
guy
second
to get
at this
his
point on those
Right.
videos. I mean, there is, but they're not doing that.
I think the second needs to step up in the YouTube commenting game. It's real disappointing.
You can identify that there is a second viewer on your YouTube video, it's going to do very badly.
Absolutely.
Look, here's the thing:
I think we have.
Well, you guys know that. Y'all know that as far as like how the counts jump up.
We look at a lot
like,
of YouTube data. We have no fucking way of knowing.
I think we have more luck finding Casey.
Oh man, he might be in the data. It might be like Tron. Casey Kasem was beamed into YouTube servers. That'd be crazy.
His Casey. All right, you heard it here first, folks.
Oh,
Casey
wow.
Kasem's UI was.
I mean, he's an older dude. I mean, the internet to him might just be like being in Tron. It might be disorienting. It might be crazy.
It might be.
There's a very good chance it will be. So we may need his son. If this is gonna be bad, but I was gonna ask his son to go into the computer and find Casey. But I hope he doesn't hear this. He did die. Rachel just handed this to me.
I hope
June
he lives
15th.
on forever on the grid.
Yeah,
So.
that's a good place
sweet,
to be.
silky voice can give the internet love and make sure that music is.
Who's the villain's
forever.
name in Tron? Clue. It's Clue, right?
Jeff Bridges.
No, Jeff Bridges was Clue. There was it was the same guy, right? He made a
that's
copy of
the
himself.
twit. Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the podcast.
For the next hour, we're going to talk about Tron. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we're gonna we'll make it a separate podcast. We'll do something. Thank you so much to everyone for listening to our ramblings about Tron, Casey Kasem, and everything in between. Thank you so much to SoulCon for coming out and entertaining us. And
This has been
talking
Indie
with us. This is a great
Creators.
conversation. yeah. This has been the Indie Creators podcast, and all right. Sincerely, thank you all so much for listening. You can follow us on Twitter at INDMUSIC. SoulCon, tell people how they can find you.
Everything, all the sites /SoulCon. The only exception to that is Instagram because some kid took SoulCon. And if you're listening, it's not cool.
Give it back.
I can't threaten you legally,
but
I can not threaten you. So yeah, but it's at Facebook, Twitter, SoulCon. Instagram is I'm SoulCon. Otherwise, it's all the /SoulCon. SOULKHAN, not AHN. It drives me crazy.
Con like Genghis. All right,
Yes.
everybody, thank you so much again for tuning in. And if you tune in and you have SoulCon's Instagram, give it back.
Yo, thanks. I know this town like the back of my hand. It got more tails than tin pans passenger van. You see that?
All right, that was a lot of fun. That was a great talk this week, guys. Make sure you check out everything we mentioned at the end of the podcast. All SoulCon's upcoming stuff is on his website, soulcon.com. You can follow him on Twitter. That's SoulCon, SOULKHAN. He's got a new record coming out later this year, so make sure you keep an eye out for all that. And
in the meantime, thank you to our sponsor, INDMUSIC. Please hit them up on Twitter at INDMUSIC, INDMUSIC. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks. You ain't got a knock on